He was happy, upbeat, positive, always energetic. It's not supposed to happen that way. It's not natural for your children to die before you do. So it is one of the most difficult things there is.
The death of a child can only truly be understood by those who've had such a loss. Judy Rising is one of those people.
My story began with my son, Patrick, when he was a senior in college, and called me and said that he had a lump in his neck and they thought it was Hodgkin's disease.
Over the next 10 years, Pat was treated with both radiation and chemotherapy, which today, Judy says, adversely impacted his immune system.
It's referred to just sort of casually as ITP. It means idiopathic thrombocytopenia purpura, and it basically means that your body eats up your blood platelets. His body was beginning to bleed from the inside out.
Doctors did what they could, but the internal bleeding and infection could not be stopped.
He just was too weak to be able to fight off the side effects of the things that were taking place. So it was only 7.5 weeks from the time that he was diagnosed until he passed away. When you lose a child, it's not natural.
For Judy, the pain was the catalyst for Pat's Fund.
We were not the kind of people who were just going to sit down and feel sorry for ourselves. That's when we decided, my husband and I and the rest of our family decided to create Pat's Fund.
A nonprofit organization dedicated to increasing awareness and research.
It brings attention to the whole understanding of what autoimmune disease is. We go into the community in every possible way that we can and teach people so that they have an understanding of the issues surrounding this. And then the second thing we do is we raise money, and the money that we raise we give almost exclusively to Benaroya Research Institute.
Benaroya Research Institute at Virginia Mason in Seattle is an international leader in immune system and autoimmune disease research. It's one of the few places in the world dedicated to finding causes and cures to eliminate the over 80 autoimmune diseases. Dr. Jane Hoyt-Buckner, Director of Translational Research, says BRI is turning discoveries into real-life applications.
We are trying to work closely with clinicians in the hospital who know the most about these autoimmune diseases of anybody, who can then have their patients participate in our studies. So those patients give us blood samples, they give us important history information about themselves and their family. And then we're able to, right here in this building, ask the questions about the role of genetics, how the immune system is different in those patients as compared to other people, and apply that to those samples that we get and work collaboratively with other immunologists who are studying some really basic questions. But then we're actually able to end the circle because we do clinical trials here, and so patients with autoimmune diseases can participate in those clinical trials. And some of those trials are actually driven by what we find here in the research laboratory.
And with so many autoimmune diseases, Dr. Buckner says the key to finding a treatment is to look at what's common.
Several of our recent findings that are also exciting are that we've been able to show that alterations in the way the immune system works in type 1 diabetes are actually very similar to changes that we see in people with MS. And that helps us figure out a way to apply similar therapies to 2 different autoimmune diseases. And we're extending those studies now to lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, and inflammatory bowel disease. What's great about Pat's Fund is that they get it. They understand a couple important things. They understand that autoimmunity is a disease. It's not each of the diseases that we would call autoimmune diseases. We're going to do better if we study them as a group than if we study them each individually. The research we do has the potential to truly change many people's lives. And I think that's probably the most important reason to care.
For Judy and her family, a cure is their hope.
I can't tell my story without the second part, which is the second shoe dropping. My daughter now has MS, and I have a third child. I have no symptoms with the third child. But never again will I say that can't happen.
To those who knew and loved him, Pat's 33 years were all too few. Judy says by giving to Pat's Fund, we can encourage longer, healthier futures for many and a lasting legacy for Pat.
anything that would come up in our house, he'd be the first one to say, we can do that. Whatever, oh, let's do that. That's great. Let's make that happen. And that's exactly what he would say about this. Let's go get him, Mom. If you see this video, you see this message, and it means something to you, I have a request, and the request is, please tell someone else. Pat's Fund happens to be my particular passion, but really the most important thing is to understand that really everybody either has an autoimmune disease or knows somebody who has one, or they will tomorrow. Help, support, give.